Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. Welcome back to Wednesday nights. I know we were back last week, but this is a fresh, new, exciting thing. And we hope you're excited too as we start our journey into the odd. We'll talk a bit more about Into the Odd when we sort of start rambling towards beginning. But first, it's the usual promo explosion to take care of. Down below, you'll find a bunch of links to YouTube and Twitch. You're watching on one. Please do check out the other. Feel free to subscribe and like and follow and ring the bell and blah, 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 blah. You've been on the internet before, you know the deal. There's also links to our social media, our Discord, our Patreon. Those do all the things you'd expect those to do. Come join us on them. If you want like things like character creation videos, our Patreon can offer that. If you want good company, our Discord can offer that. Well, sometimes. And our social media is obviously awful, but then all social media is. So that's just what you'd expect. We run three question mark. As of next week, we'll be running 3 streams a week. Mondays at the moment is Warhammer Fantasy, which relatively new. Well, he's not new to the channel. He's new to GMing on the channel, relatively so. Sam is taking care of. Wednesday nights is this, Into the Odd, for the next while. And then we'll pick back up with our long-running Simba campaign again. And next week, Thursdays will be delving back into Cincinnati Chronicles and picking up with our 4th arc of Wraith the Oblivion. So please do join us for that. We also run one-shots about once a month. The most recent of which was this weekend past, where Chris ran Death in Space. It was very good. It's starting to go up on our YouTube now, as all of our streams do over time. And the next one shot will probably be on the second weekend of June, and that's going to be me running Mork Borg, which will also have a lovely special giveaway on it. So if you want to get your hands on some Morkish Borgish stuff, then maybe get yourself to that stream. But we're not here for Mork Borg tonight. We're here for another Free League Workshop game, Into the Odd. And you know what? Before we start talking about the system, I'm just going to bring on the players one by one, and we'll talk a bit about the system, and then we'll intro the players, and then we'll just get going. So tonight we have Chris,
Hello.
who's going to be playing an individual called Doran Creed. We have Stephen, who's going to be playing Helroth Tareen,
Hi.
a name which I love because Tareen is something I infrequently feed my cat. And we have Sam playing Tiva Oliphant. So welcome to these wonderful 3 people. Mike should be joining us at some point in the future, but not for this first session. Maybe not further ones, but we'll see. He might be with us next week or after that. And John is sitting out this series because he's already doing Warhammer for the next while. So he'll join us again when we venture back to Simbaroom. So Into the Odd. Let's talk about Into the Odd. I know I usually have a physical copy of something to wave at the camera in a kind of like proud gesture of kind of defiance of digital media. But I did kickstart the latest Into the Odd sort of, I don't know what it's called, a remastered version, a version 2 of Into the Odd. And the physical copy has not arrived yet, but the digital one has, which is what we're playing off. But Into the Odd is a game by the tabletop role-play designer Chris McDowell. The graphic design on this version is by Johan Noor, who also does Mork Borg. It is published by Bastionland Press, and I think that what that is a reference to the follow-up game, which is called Bastionland, which is a bit more known. And Into the Odd is a kind of old school revival, kind of cosmically weird exploration thing. It's meant to be strange. It's meant to have a kind of sort of 17th to 19th century technology vibe to it, existing in a strange and slightly random world dominated by a city called Bastion, where people go out and they delve and they explore and they dungeon bash, I suppose, in various areas, searching for power and glory and riches and odd, mystical, cosmic items called arcana that can help them get the first 3. So, yeah, I mean, and that's Into the Odd, essentially. There's no deep lore to delve into here to get into things. So with that in mind, shall we have a brief intro to the characters, and then we'll just launch straight into it, I think. So Chris, and I realize now I'm asking these people to describe get really into your character with those like 4 stats you have and the short list of possessions. Why don't you tell us about Doran Creed, Chris?
Doran Creed, former butler to the Wadsworth family of Bastion, a powerful family embroiled in a lot of intrigue and drama. And Doran was nearly murdered in his sleep one evening, so decided to grab whatever he could get his hands on and flee the city. He is a fairly heavy-set gentleman, quite powerful for a butler. Not at all agile, but strong of mind, which is handy because he's going through a kind of manic breakdown at the minute.
Sure.
He carries with him a looted musket, a portable ram, which I am choosing to believe is basically a very large brass candelabra that he stole from the house while leaving, and a game set.
Okay, nice. Scythe or root or no one's biting on that one. Okay, yeah, no, sounds good. Doran sounds exciting. I'm particularly intrigued by the small breakdown he's having. So that will be fun. Side note, Chris, you might just want to check what your input is set to, because you might be on a different mic. I can't tell, but just have a double check. Stephen, why don't you tell us about Helroth Terrene?
Hi. So Helroth, he is a trinket merchant by trade, quite a good one. Trained by an old master. But I think by the time that this adventure starts, he's set that career aside in order to seek adventure, because he saw weird things in the sky and took that as a sign that he should go and see more of the world, I guess, and possibly loot some of it.
As would we all, I think I'm safe in saying.
Maybe his trinket store needs a restock. Who knows?
Yeah.
So he is a reasonably strong, reasonably physically capable, dexterous man. Nothing special. He has surprisingly poor willpower for somebody whose job involves bartering all day. So, perhaps this is why business has not been so great. He's very striking in his appearance, in that he has extremely long hair, beautiful flowing mane, and perched on top of that is a fancy hat, which, unlike Chris, who has an unspecified game board, I actually went and thought about what the hat should be, and I can reveal now that it is a bicocket, which is the type of hat that was made famous by Robin Hood. Except this one's not green; this one's magenta. Because why not?
A magenta Robin Hood hat.
A magenta bicocket, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Is there a feather in it?
And of course, yes, yeah. Like I think a peacock feather.
A peacock feather.
Yeah.
Excellent. That sounds wonderful.
It's yeah. You know that thing where there was that awful tendency for a while for people to kind of wear like fedoras. I think this is into the odd equivalent of that.
Sure. I mean, I'm not sure that period of time has actually left us, but still,
I lost mine, so
Sure. We've all lost our fedoras, folks.
Yeah. So then, yes. In addition to that, he's got a musket, he's got a mallet, and he's got some marbles. I like the alliterative nature of his inventory, and also an arcanum, which is known as the Flesh Tome of Babel, which lets him basically speak in any language.
Yeah, it's kind of like a universal translator.
I'm less excited by that than by the hat, but
Sure. I am also excited by musket marbles, mallet and marbles, which is my favorite early 80s D&D module.
Musket, marbles, and mallet.
Yeah,
it's just a great night in, isn't it?
It is a great night in for all the family. And on that note, Sam, why don't you tell us about Tiva Oliphant?
So yeah, I feel like that was a lot to live up to. I'm excited to see Helroth in action now. I'm playing Tiva Oliphant. She is a former, barely coal miner from Bastion, seeking a little bit of fame and fortune. Short, stocky, still dressed in the kind of get-up of a coal miner, very scruffy, but seeking better things, seeking to more ambitious plans than simply coal mining forever. Notably, she has only one eye and wears an eye patch, so as to not scare people with an eye hole, and she has short hair, and the main reason that she's kind of moved out of Bastion is she feels that her new love interest would not be interested in a lowly coal miner, and needs to seek kind of bigger plans in order to win him over.
Fair enough. That sounds great. So, sorry, did you mention your equipment that you've got?
Yes, I have very little. I have a magnifying glass and a sword and dagger.
Yeah. If you're interested, folks, part of the whole thing of character creation of Into the Odd, and we will have a character creation up soon for some tiers of patrons, is that basically your equipment is determined by how you roll in your stats. So the better stats you roll, the worse equipment you get, and obviously vice versa. Helroth was our worst collated set of stats along with HP, and therefore has an Arcana. Tiva, on the other hand, you have 18 in strength, right?
15. But
15 in strength.
I think 18 would be a literal max roll, right?
Yeah, it would be. But yeah, so
15 is
Tiva,
still good.
not so much good equipment, but there we go. Okay, so where we're going to pick up then, I'll give a little preamble of what is bringing these characters together, and then we can sort of talk. We'll randomly move between them, and they can talk about how they're arriving in this place. So all of our players are traveling and arriving at a port town called Hope's End, which is the last port of the north. It's a decrepit but bustling place by all accounts, and people do talk of it on the occasion. They're not just talking about Bastion. All of our characters are seeking to answer a posting for aid on an expedition, a posting made by famed delver Munford Dunbell, whose request was posted in various reputable journals. Quite why he is in this provincial shithole rather than operating out of Bastion, none of you have any idea, but either way you thought you better leap on the chance before others do. The request said to meet him at an establishment called the Pickled Goose. So why don't we have a roll and see who we're going to dip in with first here? And the answer is Stephen. So Stephen, why don't you give us a rough notion of how you are arriving in Hope's End?
I am arriving by boat. A sort of polar exploration, like an icebreaker, called the Raindrop. I don't like. Do we want to get into what's happening with this ship? Okay.
Tell them the history of the ship.
Having seen the strange things in the sky, Helroth was motivated to go and join a polar expedition. We arrived there at the pole. The first sortie went out from the ship, including the captain, and the captain came back mad, and the rest of the crew raving mad. So the rest of the crew organised what I think might be the most civilized mutiny ever, and essentially kind of ushered him back onto the ship and steered the ship back towards civilization, and left him there and took the ship.
Yeah, essentially. So, and we'll pick up exactly there with maybe I think Helroth, because the kind of members of the crew, you're not exactly sure they're going to go off on an expedition of their own. You think they might be going off to do things to their flag and maybe look for other ships going on expeditions. You didn't particularly want any part of that, and there was no ill feelings as you departed the ship, and we will pick up literally with you stepping onto the docks at Hope's End from the Rainbow behind you, with the crew kind of starting to, tether the ship and unload cargo and things like that. Ahead of you, stumbling into the crowd, is the captain wrapped in a bit of old torn sail, muttering about the glowing lights and kind of disappearing into the crowd. Ahead of you are the full extent of the Hope's End docks, and it's no exaggeration to say that the Hope's End docks are literally falling into the sea. Most of the actual kind of marinas are kind of either tilting or literally on just like a slope down into the water, and they're not meant to be either. The entire seafront is slowly collapsing. You can see sort of semi-decrepit buildings, kind of the waterfront of Hope's End up ahead of you, all kind of like old-fashioned sort of Tudor through to Regency kind of peaked buildings. Lots of those lovely gambrel roofs that Lovecraft was so terrified of. And the whole place is bustling madly. As you make your way forward over the rotting boards of these docks, you can hear captains bellowing out requests for new crew to voyage into the polar ocean, and you can see a individual in sort of a thick kind of laminated coat with greasy blonde hair and a beard, sort of peering at you over a large ledger that he's holding. He seems to be trying to get your attention.
I'll kind of nod at him.
Yes. So, the raindrop.
Yeah.
You're coming from there.
Yeah.
Might I have your name? Inbound from the outside.
Hellroth Terrene at your service.
Hellroth Terrene. Occupation?
Adventurer.
Vague at best. Are you bringing in any imports, any illicit cargo, anything to declare?
I don't think so.
Oh, right. On your way. He kind of waves at you. He's actually scrawling this with some kind of like slightly advanced or magical looking. It looks essentially like a very fancy gold fountain pen. And I suppose like probably fountain pens or dip and scratch pens are probably within the technological realm of Into the Odd. But this one looks like it's all polished and has a slightly kind of like faintly luminescent blue line down the side of it, and he doesn't seem to need ink or anything like that. There's no table nearby him.
Okay.
Yeah, you gonna bother with this abrasive individual anymore, or carry on into the town?
He's not who I'm looking for.
He is not
Actually. Oh yeah, no, I will. I'll ask him. Excuse me, do you know the way to the Pickled Goose?
I do know the way to the Pickled Goose. Yes, of course I do. I'm the dock overseer. I know the way to the Pickled Goose.
Allow me to rephrase, my good fellow. Could you tell me the way to the Pickled Goose? Please.
I suppose. Go down this street, turn onto the next one, turn again, and you're nearly there.
Thank you.
He did make kind of vague gestures in the air,
Okay.
but it wasn't terribly helpful.
All right. I will head off in the direction that he indicated.
Absolutely. So let's pick up with one of our other excited and adventurous explorers. Let's pick up with Sam. So how is Tiva Oliphant arriving in Hope's End, Sam?
Tiva has just walked there from Bastion, heading up north through the somewhat slightly dangerous land in between Bastion and basically anywhere else, and just about made it to Hope's End.
Absolutely, nearly a week's travel. You managed to avoid direct conflict with bandits and weird creatures, but only really just. You certainly heard some strange noises in the bushes along the way, more than a few times, but now you arrive dust-coated. Hope's End certainly used to have walls, but they've mostly been pulled down to build kind of like huts or kind of oddities of various kinds. And now the town kind of oddly springs up from the wilderness around it. Kind of, you just saw a few scattered stones at first, a hut, maybe a forester or a fisherman every now and then kind of peering at you, making your way. And then you round a corner of a clump of big trees and see it ahead of you. It's certainly no bastion. Let's put it that way. And the kind of the smell of the port kind of wafts over you as you turn. You see that there is kind of like as you go further over what used to be the rubble of the walls, you do see that there is like a guard post to one side. There are two individuals sat in there, both of which are wearing the presumed uniform of Hope's End, which is a kind of like sort of a kind of faint red color, although maybe it's just faint because they're old uniforms. One of them is sat on a stool, looking very, very bored. Who doesn't even kind of look up at you. The other one is slumped. He's also kind of sat on a stool, but slumped over to one side onto a table. Can you, is there, I don't think there's like a perception type stat, is there? I think I just tell you things. As you get closer, you figured he must be asleep, but no, you're pretty sure the other guard is just dead. He does look very old. So, yeah, there are a couple of flies buzzing around him.
Okay. I think I'll approach the other guard, the one that's I believe to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
Is he asleep?
He's certainly dozing, yeah. He's kind of like got his head tilted back and there's a faint sort of like...
I'll kind of clear my throat.
I'm going in. It's fine.
Is this Hope's End?
Yeah.
I've come a long way. I'm looking for the pickled goose.
A pickled goose?
The pickled goose.
Oh. Go out of here. Turn left onto the main road. Just keep going. Follow the sound of raucous revelry.
All right. Is your friend dead?
No, not again. It's fine. Go on.
All right. Good luck with your friend, though. Thank you.
Okay, you walk on into the bustling streets of Hope's End, and we have one more explorer to join us, although Chris looks terribly frozen there. Now, there he is. There he is. He's alive. He's not one of the dead guards. Hello. Tell us how Doran Creed is arriving in Hope's End, please.
Doran Creed has arrived after about a pleasant day and night's sail from Bastion aboard the less than pleasant, dredging trawler that is the Queen Selkie, which he booked passage on with what remains of his own funds in order to skip town.
That's absolutely right. And yeah, the journey has been sort of fairly pleasant. It hasn't. There's been a few stops where the dredger threw out its vast web of nets, but not for very long, just to take advantage of sort of vast circles of fish in the ocean, kind of overcast by gulls and other sea flyers. They netted a reasonable haul of fat, ugly fish and a few bits and pieces of stranger stock. Through your journey, pretty much every crew member you encountered had their own story of grotesque things pulled from the deepest waters. And to be honest, you were quite tired of them once by the time you start pulling into Hope's End. You're faintly despairing of never smelling a fish again, but you step onto the exact same docks I described for Helroth. And you know what? I'm going to say that as you are walking along those docks, ahead of you, you saw and heard the conversation that Helroth Tareen had with the dock overseer. So it's up to you whether you want to, interact with the overseer, or whether you think, hey, maybe if you seems like you're going to the same place, maybe you could catch up with Helroth. It's entirely up to you.
I think I'm going to actually try and do both. I'm going to go and
Sure.
check in with the overseer by way of not skipping customs, but then I'm
Sure.
going to try and tag Helroth.
Absolutely. The dock overseer just kind of wheels on you as if he's caught you doing something terribly inappropriate, and says, Queen Silky,
Yes.
name, business.
Francis Cabbage. I'm a trader.
And what have you got to trade?
Well, I'm hoping to buy.
What are you hoping to buy?
Well, whatever's for sale, good friend.
Enterprising. I like that. You're not carrying anything illicit?
No, nothing illicit.
All right, Francis Cabbage. On with you. He
Kind
waves
of.
you on.
Try and catch up with Helroth.
Sure, and let's pick up with exactly that. So why don't you two, as you're strolling through the busy, decrepit streets of Hope's End, why don't you do a little role play, I suppose?
Excuse me. Helroth, is it?
Yes, have we met?
We have not. Well, we have. We just have this very moment. In fact, I heard you were going for the expedition to the pickled cabbage.
I was the pickled cabbage.
Obsessed with cabbages.
Pickled
goose.
Sorry, friend, I know nothing of this pickled cabbage of which you speak.
Oh, sorry, pickled goose. Apologies. It's been a week for me.
Easily confused. Gooses and cabbage is.
Welcome, friends on the same plate. Much like us. You got the directions because I have no idea how to get around this town.
I have a dim inkling. Would you care to explore with me?
Please, onward to fortune.
So I believe it was down this street, and then I think he said to turn this way. Let's try it.
Absolutely. And as you walk through the rather smelly of various things, like obviously the sea and fish and rotting wood and dung and human dung, and also just a faint, odd, sweet, acrid thing that you can't quite place, but definitely doesn't seem healthy. You walk through these streets, mostly almost in the darkness, as these tall, kind of old-fashioned buildings lean overhead. And as you do so, you think you're kind of locating roughly the place. You do encounter, as you're walking these streets on a corner, there are a number of literal soap boxes that have been set up in a small pile. There are a number of individuals stood around them, all with kind of white button-down shirts, all with kind of like hair that has been like slickly greased back with fat of some kind of handing out these roughly printed pamphlets. On the front of the soap boxes hangs a little banner that says "The Union of Man," and there's an individual on top of it with a somewhat fervent look in his eyes, who's loudly talking about an upcoming invasion from the stars, warning people of this, telling them that go to your homes, fortify them, barricade them, buy as many weapons as you can, for they are coming, and they may have no mercy. As you go past them, are you engaging with them in any way, even if just to take a pamphlet? At least one of the individuals will definitely approach you and kind of try and force one on you.
Yeah, I'll take a pamphlet.
Sure. How about you, Doran Creed? We may have lost Chris again.
Ooh.
Oh.
Ooh,
I'm still here.
How about you, Chris? Are you interested in the Union of Man and their pamphlets?
I will brush off the pamphlet here, going, I've no home to defend, sir. I will be perfectly fine.
Sure. In that case, one of the Union of Men kind of stares at you a moment and then just shakes his head in despair. Another one lost. Another inevitable death. As Stephen has quite rightly pointed out in chat, there are willpower saves on meeting NPCs and various things to see how good an impression you make. And you know what? I didn't actually, in my head, it wasn't like for every like NPC. It was for like encounters with things while out and about. But you know what? I think you're right. And it's a good chance for us to test drive these rules. So Helroth, you are interacting with this gentleman who's passing your pamphlet. So
Correct.
Why don't you give a willpower save, please? So this is most of the rules in Into the Odd, to be honest. There are 3 stats ranging from 3 to 18, and it's a D20 roll, and you want to go equal or lower. So it's very similar to Simbroom, essentially.
Equal or lower, yeah. Our first roll of the campaign. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a frankly atrocious willpower of 6. So I roll an 18. That's a fairly comprehensive fail.
Fairly comprehensive failure. So I think Helroth to because you're playing Helroth as quite kind of like flamboyant and stuff. I think because you have willpower 6, that just rubs people up the wrong way. Who wants to meet someone with a peacock feather in their hat? You know, it's just kind of you know, like you say, it's Into the Odd fedora.
Yeah, there's a very small minority of people that could find that slightly obnoxious.
Yeah.
They're wrong, of course, but
obviously, yeah. Kind of the Union of Man individual kind of like passes you a pamphlet, and his eyes kind of like just glide up to your hat, and his brow wrinkles, and he just kind of says, "There you go."
Thank you, good sir. Have a fine day.
Of course. He seems very confused. Doran Creed, you know, you did interact with one of them as well. Why don't they're despairing of your inevitable demise, but why don't you give us one as well? Why don't you give us a roll?
I'm a willful person, so I have to get under 13. I get an 18. Oof.
Same roll, just as bad. No, they don't seem to. You don't seem worth talking to anymore. You're a dead man walking. So you know, there's no real point. Helroth, if you browse this pamphlet, are you browsing the pamphlet, or as you walk on, or are you like just tossing it into the gutter, or you know?
It's free paper. It's reading material.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm not expecting to be convinced, but then I also have incredibly low willpower. So
sure, yeah. Well, you know, this pamphlet it goes into some detail about the upcoming invasion from the stars. There's not too much information about exactly why or who or really any reason why it's even suspected to happen, and the level of prose is certainly what you'd maybe call invective at best. It comes across as the ravings of an absolute lunatic. So not for the first time today that you've heard that, but
my main takeaway is that I should be watching the sky, which I was doing anyway.
Yeah, so. Exactly. One thing it does say, there's like a little paragraph in the back of the pamphlet that mentions that citizens of Hope's End should beware, for one of these monsters from the heavens has been trapped by a member of the Union of Man in a place called the Beacon Tower.
The Beaker Tower?
The Beacon Tower.
Beacon Tower, okay.
So, Tiva Oliphant, let's pick up with you coming through Hope's End from an entirely different angle. And the streets you're walking are much more they feel more like the back streets that you're wandering around. Most of the hustle and bustle is presumably along that seafront, and you are trudging along. Like there's some crafts people around, and there's some market stalls, but mostly it's a lot of kind of like dusty, filthy little streets. As you're crossing through one, which is you could generously call it an alleyway. They're poorly lit. There's the occasional, pardon me, you can see the occasional like sort of little patrol of militia, but really not many of them. And you pass a group of them who seem to be dismantling what looks like a foul-smelling little shrine that has kind of like fish and bits of octopus, and maybe like all the top of it is like maybe a big sort of like sea snail rammed onto a pole. Maybe a couple of its like little appendages are still kind of like twiddling around. But they seem to be dismantling it. They also don't seem to be struck that this is something unusual or remarkable. It has very much the atmosphere of, another day's work.
Is there anyone else around the street who seems upset that this shrine is getting dismantled?
No, you see a few people walking past, like who just glance at it and go, "Oh yeah," and then carry on walking. So no, there doesn't seem to be anyone kind of visibly upset by this.
I think Tio will just, take a quick look, be slightly impressed by the strange gods or whatever this shrine is to of Hope's End, and just carry on her way, not wanting to make an enemy of the local militia.
That sounds fair enough. So as you wander on, I'm happy to say that you find the main street that the guard talked about. You trudge along it, and after a while, you know what? You do hear the sound of revelry and kind of raucous laughter, and you arrive at the front of what is actually a very large tavern and board house. Over the front hangs a very, very large jar with an actual pickled goose inside it. It's definitely seen better days. There are bits of the goose kind of floating off, and the beak seems, maybe semi-attached still. But it certainly satisfies the name of the establishment. Looking through windows, you can see that it seems kind of more gambling den than tavern. There are lots of tables laid out where people are playing cards and dice and bones and other more kind of esoteric little games. It seems, fairly frolicsome inside. Not a lot of trouble. There don't seem to be any kind of big hulking bouncers or anything of the kind. And I'd say that as you're standing there, perhaps two other individuals arrive at the front from the other way. So I don't know if we want to unify the party here or whether you're going to fight it and annoy me.
All right, so I'm gonna fail a willpower roll so that Tiva becomes hostile.
Don't like this magenta hat.
I think
no one does.
I think as we round the corner, I'm going to just be saying like, so I didn't catch your name, sir.
Yes, my name. Duncan Cake is my name.
Duncan Cake.
Yes.
Nice to
The
meet
Cake
you,
family.
Mr. Cake.
Yes, and yours, if I may.
Helroth Tareen.
Oh, good to meet your acquaintance. I'm sure we shall meet others hoping to take part in this historic voyage north.
Ah, you're here to meet Munford.
Yes.
And his son.
I was kind of expecting more of a crowd, I suppose.
You here to meet Munford? I'm here for Munford.
Oh,
Do you know Munford?
well, we're here to meet Munford.
Only by reputation, one of the great delvers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, of course.
You're an adventurer also?
Well, about to be once I've met Munford.
Then
That's the
we
spirit.
all stand on the brink of a most glorious future. My name's Helroth. Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Howard. My name's Tiva. And you, is your name Duncan? I think I heard.
Eugene. Eugene Stairs is my name.
Eugene. Okay. Nice to meet you, Eugene and Helroth. So I'm looking forward to adventuring with both of you.
I deeply hope that Chris is noting all these names down.
My notes are already getting far longer than I expected for this session.
So, are we heading inside the Pickled Goose?
I think so.
Sure. You head inside. As I've said, it's raucous and frolicsome. A couple of individuals even kind of wave to you cheerily and shout out for you to come over to their gaming table. Although you do notice as they're doing so, occasionally you see an individual retreating from the gaming table, kind of like looking very down on their luck and unhappy with the situation. So perhaps it's not the best idea to join these friendly strangers for the game of chance. But regardless, at the back of the Pickled Goose, there is a large bar there with a somewhat bawdy landlady. She's stocky and red-faced. She is helping keep her tavern bustling and noisy by providing plenty of bustle and noise of her own, handing out not handing out drinks, returning drinks for pay, and generally being a bit of a life and soul of the party. A lot of people here seem to like her. Yeah, and that's basically it. There's a couple of large sweeping wooden staircases running up kind of either side of the bar up to presumably maybe more gambling rooms, maybe the boarding areas. It seemed from the outside like there's a good 4 stories on this place. It's very large, and the interior it's not dirty and horrible, but neither is it fancy. It's kind of very functional inside. There's plenty of spilled drinks, but also not too much horrible scum and garbage everywhere. So, yeah.
I think I'm going to stride up to the bar.
Go for it.
And I suppose interact with the barmaid. Do we want to roll for that first?
I think the rolls first is a good idea because that helps you
Okay.
role play, right? About how obnoxious you're being or whatever.
Yeah, that's a fail.
Although for you, if you fail hard, just be normal and they'll just take your hat.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's up to you.
So I'm gonna obnoxiously fail to get the barmaid on side, but regardless, I'm gonna ask like a shot of whiskey, please. And do you happen to know Munford Dunbell?
Well, I happen to know everyone. This is my establishment. Of course I know a man staying here. What a ridiculous question. Whiskey, was it?
Yes, please. How wonderful.
Yes. Well, here's your whiskey. And for your friends?
Have a beer, please.
A beer? And you, sir?
Yes, a beer would be delightful.
Well, there you go. I know you don't have any kind of money labeled on you at the moment. We'll assume you have the petty cash for a round of drinks. She passes them over, kind of gives one last kind of shake of her head at Helroth. Of course, she knows Munford. He's staying here, and wanders off to serve someone else.
Wait, she didn't tell us where to find him. Oh,
But
Well,
She's still there. It's just you've got to try and get her attention again, I suppose.
Is this Mumford fellow famous enough for us to have like a wood cutting? That's not a wood cutting, or like a print of his features.
You've probably seen prints of wood cuttings and prints of the guy. Yeah, like the thing that struck you from all the images you've seen of him is rather ostentatious, particularly in usage of jewelry.
Well, if you are familiar with the illustrious adventurer, he should be well decked out in golden jewels and
festooned with trinkets.
Tends to be an ostentatious gentleman. Perhaps he is at the tables. I thought he wouldn't be a gambling sort, but maybe he is.
Looking around, it's a large area and there's lots of people in here. But after a couple of minutes, you can certainly give the place the old ocular pat down, and you don't see anyone who is draped in sort of jewelry in this bottom floor gambling area. You can always try and engage the landlady again, just because Helroth.
Yeah, I'll have a go.
Sure. Why don't you roll willpower as well?
11 is a success.
There we go. Oh, one beer not enough for you?
Good landlady. Well, we are here on business, and we were hoping you could direct us to the illustrious Mumford.
Oh, well, of course, since one of you was asked nicely. Yes, Munford Dunbell is indeed staying here. We are very honored to have him. He is upstairs. Is he expecting you?
I believe he is expecting all able adventurers.
Oh, adventurers are you?
About to be, once we go on an adventure.
Are you sure?
Quite sure.
Yeah, of course you're sure. You wouldn't be here unless you were a professional. That would be horribly dangerous. Yes, if you go upstairs and find yourself in the on the top, very top floor, and if you head along to our luxury suite, which is labeled as such on the door, you will find Munford. I would recommend you knock, however. He's very, very busy, very famous, very rich, busy, famous man.
Well, thank you very much, good lady. We shall return post-expedition and help ourselves to more of your fine wares.
I'm sure. She kind of like walks away, and you can choose whether or not you notice her kind of like walking away and just kind of going as she edges down the bar in a visual gag I've plucked entirely from Futurama.
Well,
so
that's a good sign.
Are we heading up the stairs?
Yeah,
I think so. Maybe
Sure.
after the drink, though. I think I'll finish the drink.
Oh, yeah. Is there any kind of conversing you want to do among each other, even if it's just kind of described rather than role played?
I think I'd say, God, must be great to be an adventurer. Luxury room, jewelry. I can't wait. It's going to be great.
I think
it's primarily for the successful adventurers, I believe. But I think in Mr. Dunbell, we could not be in better company.
For every one Mumford Dunbell, there must be about 60 corpses, but that will not befall us.
Of course not. So, Into the Odd definitely doesn't have an instant character replacement system. So, you head up the stairs, kind of each floor, kind of like the bottom floor has the stairs sweeping around the sides. The next floor kind of sweeping around the middle, so they're kind of in really wide curved spirals as they head up all the way to the top. And on that top floor, you find yourself essentially in a corridor, which on one side has windows and doors that face out on like a large balcony area that just kind of is one of the largest buildings in Hope's End and kind of has a view over the docks and about half the town. And on the other side has like a couple of other doors, but one main set of double doors in the middle that has luxury suite written, kind of engraved on a brass plaque on the doors. Both words are spelt wrong. Yeah, you can hear a sound coming from inside, a kind of like sort of reedy rendition of some kind of singing with a sort of orchestra backing it.
Well, we've come this far. Best foot forward, or best knuckle forward, I suppose. Cross over and give the door a knock.
Absolutely. How loud do you knock?
Politely. So
Okay,
not
just
super
like
loud.
A little rap. Okay. How long do you wait before you try it again?
I am a trained butler, trained from birth. So I wait exactly as long as is etiquettual and expedient.
Sure, absolutely. Let's say that's about 45 seconds. So are you knocking a little louder this time?
Yes, in accordance with the exact correct amount that the volume should be increased.
the butler scale of
The butler
of increased
curve, as
knocking.
they call it in the
Yes,
business.
they
You'd know this
definitely
if you
do
went
call
to
it that.
Butler University.
I sadly I missed out.
After
So
Doran's second knock, Tiva is gonna walk up and knock extremely loudly, like immediately afterwards.
After this very loud knock that Tiva carries out, you hear a kind of a harumphing noise inside, and someone's voice going, "What the? Come in!"
Kind of open the door and allow the other two to pass. Again, buckling.
Sure. The doors kind of open as a pair, and they creak quite loudly on the hinges as it opens up. And as it opens up, a wave of warmth washes over you. There is a large, roaring fireplace on one side of the room, stoked to high heaven. The rooms are very nicely laid out. You'd say kind of a plush, large four-poster bed, several sort of leather and felt armchairs. There's a large table with a number of what look like maps and odd bits of kind of divination and navigational equipment laid out on them. There is a rack of weapons on the wall, rather good-looking ones. And stood in the middle of it all is a tall, lean, rakish-looking man with sort of hawkish features. He is wearing very elaborate sort of puffed out black and white clothes. Think kind of like, I don't know, like a sort of Landsnecht kind of, or like if you an Imperial Greatsword, if you like your Games Workshop stuff, that kind of like post-Renaissance kind of like very elaborate, flamboyant clothing. He's also got a sort of very finely clipped blonde mustache and slightly thinning and balding long blonde hair, which is tied back at the nape of his neck. He is dripping in very ostentatious jewelry, gold and silver and gems of various kinds, rings on all his fingers, several sort of dangling necklaces, a couple of brooches, maybe a couple of precious stones, sapphires, just as his earrings. And he kind of turns and sort of regally turns around and looks at you. There's a small odd arcana next to him, which to our eyes would seem like a kind of weird steampunkish gramophone, which is kind of playing out this sort of maybe an opera kind of sound. And as he wheels around and looks at you, he takes in and kind of measures each of you and then says, "Who the fuck are you?"
Helroth Terrain, at your service. I'll roll the dice, shall I?
Yeah. Why doesn't everyone, while you roll, Doran and Tiva, what do you say? And then also roll your dice, please. I'd love to know the impressions you make with this gentleman.
I'm Tiva Oliphant, Mr. Denbell. It's a pleasure to meet you.
I think Chris is temporarily frozen again. How did those rolls go, Sam and Stephen?
I got a 20.
Amazing. I love
this
it.
adventure is over.
Apologies for getting some bad coverage this evening. I'm back. My response is, Mr. Dumbo, my actual name is Doran Creed, and I'm here to answer your call for volunteers.
Okay, and how, Chris and Sam, how did your rolls go?
I rolled a 4, which succeeds.
Excellent. So Munford kind of looks around and says, "Oh, yes. Did my advert not specify? No, I suppose it didn't. Needs must. What is that fucking chapeau?"
This? It's my bike-cocket. Is it not wonderful?
I hate it. Remove it at once.
Yes, sir.
Right. So, tell me, close the fucking door.
I'll
Why?
do so in the buckleriest manner possible.
Good closing, that man. What brings you to Hope's End, to this expedition? You, the one with the door skills.
I regretfully have run out of friends in Bastion and need to be away from the city for a while. And an expedition is always good to keep one's head out of the affairs of nobles and politicians.
A prospective rogue on the run, eh? Well, come across a few of those in my time, maybe even been one a few times. Always good to have someone on board who no one will miss. You, the rough one with is that soot? Coal? Mud?
Sorry, sir. I'll try and dust myself off very quickly.
Oh, not in here.
Well, apologies. Sorry, sir. I'm not used to such illustrious company, really. I'm here for adventure and riches and everything.
That's simple.
Just that, sir. I'm here to learn what you have to teach.
Well, if you listen, then we'll get along just fine, I suppose. And you, Tareen.
Yes, me, a humble trinket merchant turned adventurer at your service. It's the classic story, I saw weird things in the sky, which set me on the course that led me to this place today via a polar expedition, which I'm sure is exactly the kind of thing that is just all in a day's work for you. But I have some adventuring experience and adventuring / mutiny experience under my belt, so I'm sure I can bring that to this organization.
So you're telling me you're a delusional peddler of nothings, and also recently took part in a treacherous mutiny?
I'm a peddler of fine trinkets and was present at a mutiny.
Yes. He's kind of pacing around the group of you as he says this, and as he does, he kind of leans in to Doran and says, "Keep an eye on that one."
So,
all right. Well, you know who I am. I am Munford Dunbell of the Bastion Dunbells, best explorer in the city, famed, power, glory, riches. If this is what you seek, Miss Oliphant, then mayhap if you listen to me, you will find it.
Absolutely, sir.
I am also someone out in this wretched provincial pit, because unfortunately my house collapsed under the weight of, well, let's not get into that. And it turns out the insurance premiums are rather costly, so here I am, needing to scavenge up some quick remuneration. And I heard a rumor out here, gentleman and lady, of a place the locals call the Iron Coral.
Sounds like a place where there are many riches to be found, sir.
Yes, I rather like the sound of it. It is a recent addition to these isolated and troubled and God-forsaken waters. Remote fishermen have reported its jagged, metallic form growing out of the sparkling ocean. No more than a month ago, cavernous holes beckon from its sponge-like shell, and the few sent to explore inside have not returned. Naturally, this has led to rumors of mysterious powers lurking within, and even more naturally, the people of the town reached out to Munford Dunbell. And then I posted for help, and apparently I suppose it is delving season back in Bastion, and perhaps some of my previous companions were already concerned with other places. But here we are, regardless.
Well, what we may lack in experience, we make up for in camaraderie and solidarity. So I'm sure we will do you proud, sir.
Yes. Do your servants have your equipment?
Yes.
Alas, I have fallen on hard times, and aside from this candelabra and my rifle, I have not much.
I carry all my equipment with me myself, Mr. Dumbo.
I lied. No.
Munford.
I thought the others were going to go with me on that.
Munford kind of stands like stock still, like a deer in a headlight for a second, and says, "Oh dear Lord in heaven. All right. Needs must when the devil drives. We will set off for the Iron Coral tomorrow. There is some way to go, a minimum of 2 or 3 days' journey through a patch of land the locals call the Fallen Marsh. It will be unpleasant, but hopefully the rewards will make it worth it. In the meantime, feel free to entertain yourselves this evening as you desire. There is an amusement park that perhaps people of your breeding might find entertaining, somewhere near the docks, or simply wander the streets, or drink and fuck yourself into a state of carnal disgust. Those occupations, I'm sure. Yes.
We will get right on it, sir.
All right.
Perhaps literally.
Well, feel free to make your way out, and I will see you outside at dawn then.
See you at dawn, Mr. Dumbo. Thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes,
The
Tyrion,
door-
kiss my fucking ass. Off you go.
The door to the room will be open before you even realize you were about to leave, with Doran behind it.
Excellent. All right. You file out, kind of close the door, and the noise of the kind of gramophone-like kind of raises a little bit. And you're stood outside.
Oh.
Also, that was the funniest, but like that proper got me, Stephen. Well done.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that was great.
I just figured that he's basically a salesman. Like, he'll say whatever he thinks.
Yeah, just move with whatever the prevailing wind is. What are we doing then?
I suppose we'll pause for a second and go, well, it looks like we are not the only ones who has fallen on hard times.
That went well, I thought.
Yes. Wonder, shall we go and look at this amusement park? I don't think I've seen such a thing before.
I am intrigued as to what constitutes an amusement park in this place.
Absolutely.
Diplomatically put.
Okay. You make your way down to the bottom floor of the Pickled Goose, which is as you left it. It's now maybe sort of like very late afternoon, early evening. And as you make your way out onto the main street of Hope's End, you look around and you see, in fact, now that the sun is going down, you look down at one end out near the waterfront, and you see over to one side where there's a rough clearing of buildings. You see a number of kind of like semi-collapsed piers there, and there's a lot of bright lights over there, kind of as you might find in an amusement park or a kind of diversion of some kind. So it seems to be fairly obvious where it is, and I take it we're just kind of heading over there.
Yep.
No problem. So you make your way through the streets of Hope's End. Nothing of any particular note happens to you. They're very similar as they were earlier. And you find yourself on a half-collapsed pier filled with abandoned amusement park rides. There are tents and huts scattered around that now seem to host the main part of the town's market. Stalls are mostly selling bad clothes, preserved fish, and salty cheese. A couple of the amusement park rides, the much more simpler ones, are still in operation. There's just kind of a tall one that basically you sit in and it just kind of hoists you jerkily up about 50 feet in the air and then moves you jerkily back down. Not in any exciting kind of way, but it gets you pretty high up in the air. I suppose that's fun. And there is, let's say there's like a sort of device that fits about 3 people that looks like a large, basically it looks like a very large elastic band on a pole that essentially just whips you round and round through the air. You see a couple of people staggering away from it, vomiting over the side of the pier. But it doesn't seem to dissuade the rather large queue of mostly sailors and dock workers who seem to be waiting to take their own turn on it.
This looks awful.
Less diplomatically put, but
I'm not sure what I was expecting, Mr. Cake.
I was.
But, is it cake?
Yes. My name's Chadwick. Chadwick Cummerbund.
Mr. Cummerbund. Okay. So I could have sworn that you were Duncan Cake.
So
Chadwick.
might. Matt, I would like to find, is there anyone kind of around here looking like someone I can tap for information?
Sure, why not? Why not? I think that's fine. Let me. I am in fact going to do some crazy rolling of like NPCs from this place. Yeah, sure. You look around. You know what? The most notable person you can see is a gentleman who's wearing kind of modern, very kind of fancy looking armor. Sort of a big breastplate with like a top guard on it. Clothes underneath, not too dissimilar to Munford's, but in a kind of pale red, like the pale red of the guards. He has an eye patch and a wooden leg. And he is flanked by a couple of other guards, and he's kind of looking around, pistol on one hip, saber on the other. He looks very distinctive. He doesn't look like a horribly unfriendly man, but he certainly leaps out from the crowd.
Yeah, I think I'll tap that one for information.
Sure. Why do you give me a willpower roll?
That is, alas, a failure. 17.
Okay. Tell me how you're approaching this gentleman.
I'm just kind of walking up like a friendly but foolish tourist in a powdered wig.
Sure.
Good evening, Captain.
He draws his pistol and kind of aims it like about that far from your face and says, "Hold, sir.
Absolutely.
What is your business? What is your business with the militia?"
I was hoping to ask some questions.
We are not a tourist information service, sir. We have business here. And I'll have you know I've had death threats against me recently. So if you could hold yourself a little bit back and take care, I would appreciate it.
My apologies. Scuttle off, greatly befuddled.
How did that go, Doran?
His name's Chadwick. Or possibly Eugene.
Francis. But that matters not. What matters is that it did not go well. I was going to try and inquire as to why this place is so run down. It's not like this town lacks for money.
Most places that are not Bastion are run down because Bastion just You know how, like, in most cities, like, the poorest places are next to the richest places? Because the richest places just kind of suck up all the economy from the areas around them. Bastion's like that, but with the world.
Still, there should have been money here once.
Oh, there
These
almost certainly was.
structures were new once. Very unusual.
As you say that, you hear the militia captain just behind you go, "Oh, not to get fire! Fire!" And kind of the militia as a whole start dashing across the pier. If anyone turns to see where they're going to go, you can see the entire dock front area is ablaze, where you all essentially, where Doran and Helroth got off their ships. The entire area is going up in flames. You can see that, in fact, the what's it called, the Queen Silky that you came in on is at the very epicenter of it, and is a towering mass of flickering flame. And all of the docks, the piers over there, are essentially being consumed and or crashing down into the sea. It seems to be a horrific disaster unfolding in front of you. There are great masses of people swarming the place, desperately trying to put it all out, seemingly to no real avail.
Huh.
Quite the spirit of industry, isn't it? They're working together to put out the conflagration.
Do you think we can help? Should we try?
I think I would rather like to go to sleep.
I don't have a bucket.
We do have to be ready by dawn. I'm sure Mr. Dumbo would not appreciate us being late.
Good point. I appreciate your professional manner. Perhaps a nightcap and then bed.
Agreed.
The crowd seem to be able to do very little about the raging inferno, and as you kind of round away from the pier with the amusement park on it, which does have an old tattered sign, incidentally, over the front of it saying Paradiso Park, you make your way back along the opening of the main street, and as you look over, you see that the docks are more or less entirely destroyed. They are just charred cinders, blackened logs, and generally speaking, if Hope's End wants to have any kind of maritime trade at all, they're going to have to rebuild the entire thing, because all they've got left is Paradiso Park, which, no one's tying up their ship to that. So, welcome to Hope's End, I guess.
Well, Tiva, is it? How was the walk up? Because I imagine that's how we will be getting back to Bastion.
Well, frankly, it was somewhat unpleasant, but only took about a week, and I made it here in one piece. So
good. Great.
Did you both arrive by boat?
Yes, I believe Francis was on that one in the fire.
Yes, quite.
Well, I'm very pleased you managed to get off it in time, Mr. Eugene Francis.
Quite.
There is a slight matter in the short term, which is that presumably the iron coral, this is a feature in the sea, yes? For which we will need a boat.
Well, Munford did say you were traveling on foot through a place called the Fallen Marsh.
Okay. So maybe we can walk there.
Look, it could have been a lot worse. Had we have arrived one day later, we would be swimming to shore. It's great. Everything is great.
I think we've.
I agree.
I think we've had a stroke of incredible luck here.
As well.
Yeah. This is a good omen.
A great omen.
So you make your way down the main street of Hope's End, back to the Pickled Goose. Again, I'm happy for you to have enough small petty cash on you to buy the cheapest accommodation that the Pickled Goose has, which will be in a kind of like hostel style big dormitory room where you can rent a rough straw filled pallet next to various snoring, snoozing, and stinking individuals. And why don't each of you roll a d6 for me, and tell me the result.
I get a 3.
5, 3,
5.
5. Okay. Doran and Tiva, you both have a fairly decent night's sleep. Presumably, you're just so tired that you managed to sleep through it. Helroth, you certainly start with a pleasant night's sleep, and then you just keep waking up in the middle of the morning, plagued by dreams of Mumford kind of stealing your hat from your head and stomping on it, which obviously leaves you somewhat perturbed when you wake up in the morning. But otherwise, you wake up, all of your possessions are still there. No one slit your throat in your sleep. Again, like, you know, from Helroth's, as Helroth argued, that's a win.
We're having a good time.
Absolutely.
Except for the nightmares.
Yes. So,
I'll
are we?
spend the scant moments before dawn cleaning my rifle, or cleaning my blunderbuss, I should say. A musket, apologies. Third time lucky. Cleaning my musket. And maybe even trying to polish up the candelabra. Both the candelabra and my powdered wig, might I add, are looking like they have seen a lot. As do I.
Fair enough. Are we meeting Munford outside?
Yes.
I
Tiva will be
was-
there before dawn, definitely.
Yeah, I think Helroth, slightly clammy from cold, sweaty dreams, but having made sure that his hat is found, but I probably stowed in a bag or something.
Sure. You all kind of gather outside as dawn rises, and you can see it kind of again up at the end of the main street. You can see the smoking remnants of the docks, and you can see kind of the sun peeking over the horizon over there. And you kind of stand and wait a bit longer, and then about 20 minutes after dawn, Munford kind of kicks open the front door of the Pickled Goose and walks out. He's no longer wearing that jewelry, but otherwise he looks fairly similar. He has that black and white, elaborate, kind of puffed out outfit. He has kind of like a pair of kind of slightly pinkish purplish round glasses with odd little crystals embedded around the rim of them, which he has kind of on the bridge of his nose, and so he can kind of peer over it. He is carrying a very kind of a long great sword, which he has sort of strapped to his waist, and a brace of pistols across his chest. And he kind of walks out to the front door, blinks in the light, and kind of he kind of, his eyes wander over the three of you, and his glance kind of lingers on one of Helroth's satchels that has a peacock feather kind of draping out from the side of it, and he just goes, "Fucking hell! All right, one more. All right, an expedition to go investigate the iron coral of which man has not." He kind of looks over the three of you. Oh, fuck it. Let's just go.
To adventure!
Oh, shut up, Tareen.
Apologies, sir.
He strides forward and walks kind of over through the city, basically to a different gate, although like the one you entered, it's not really a gate. There's just a rough guard post where the road the cobbled road meanders out into a more kind of muddy, sodden path. And you emerge after maybe only a walk of 10 minutes or so into a place where behind you is the rubble of the start of Hope's End, and ahead of you is a soggy place with hazardous looking fog and hideous smelling odor. Munford kind of looks out on it and says, apparently each year the land sinks deeper and it is overgrown with thick vegetation. The local wildlife is rather odd, and altogether, well, it's going to be an absolute shitter.
Still, it's not on fire, and it's not yet trying to kill me. So, once again, we've done well.
I'm sure it's nothing we can't handle.
Speaking of on fire, was that you at the docks last night?
Certainly not. We were observing from a safe distance.
One more. You didn't set them on fire?
No, absolutely not.
Shame.
I don't recall that being on the list of activities that you recommended for the evening.
No, but they were fucking disgusting, weren't they?
Well,
All right. Forwards. He kind of strides forwards a few steps and then kind of like lifts his rather elaborately embossed leather boot, looks at something on the bottom of it and goes, oh, for fuck's sake. Forward. And carries on. Now, we are now on a lovely hex crawl, folks, through the Fallen Marsh. And what we're going to do, just to give you kind of like an idea of it, we'll lay out some parameters. So generally speaking, the days are split into 4 quarters, okay? If you want to not become deprived, which is a kind of a condition in the game, you have to spend at least one of them sleeping. But you can travel for the other 3. Obviously, this is the morning portion. Each quarter, someone has to roll for the weather. So, would anyone like to volunteer as our first weather roller, which is going to be a D6?
Sure.
Go for it.
That's a 3.
Okay. In that case, that is humid air and fat rain pelting down on you as you squelch through the first stages of the marsh. At the moment, it's just kind of like, it is fairly even ground. It's just kind of like very wet underfoot, and you can see in the distance like the fog and the reeds as it breaks out into more actual marshland. And also in the distance, because it's just raining and it's not kind of like misty or anything, I'd say in the distance to the southwest you can see not mountains exactly, but certainly kind of a high series of hills raising themselves out of the marsh. They look craggy and rocky and very unpleasant to traverse. But it does look like the marshland kind of like curves around them as you travel further west. And west broadly does seem to be the direction that Munford is striding in. He definitely has a map kind of wrapped up and tucked into his backpack. He hasn't seen fit to check it yet, presumably because he's already decided on at least a rough path to go. So let us enter our first hex, folks. And I do have it here. Yeah. So you are walking, as I say, through kind of this rough land that hasn't really fallen given way to kind of marsh or swamp yet. And as you're trudging, quite soon the rough sodden path that you were walking through from the town kind of just peters out to nothing, and you're just trudging through what may have been at one time a pleasant field or meadow, but is now just this kind of like slowly growing morass. Ahead of you, kind of a slight way to the south, you can see what seems to be some kind of ruined building made of stone. which you're really not sure of the provenance of it. You can't even tell if it used to be a house or a kind of a way station, an inn, anything like that, because it's so really tumbled down and fallen to pieces. Munford, as he's striding forward, kind of turns around and peers at it and says, "All right, Oliphant, you wanted to learn? Learn by
Absolutely.
doing, I say. All three of you, I suppose. What should one do when one encounters something like this?"
Investigate.
With caution.
You would have to jump in, Tareen, wouldn't you? You couldn't let your companions speak for themselves. Good Lord. Yes, that's right, Tiva. We investigate with caution.
I suspected as much, sir.
Wonderful. I'm glad we're all on the same page. Let me know what's in that. He's kind of wiping the bottom of his boot on some reeds nearby.
Tiva will approach the house with a kind of exaggerated caution.
Sure. The other two, are you accompanying Tiva? It's only a short way off to the south, maybe like 200 meters or so.
Yeah. Cautiously.
Okay.
I believe I will have my musket out and will be literally keeping my powder dry.
Absolutely. So you make your way closer as a group to this ruined stone building. As you do so, and you say you're doing it cautiously and kind of keeping an eye and an ear out, as you get closer, maybe you're only about 20 meters from it now or so, you do hear something from maybe not inside the building, but just round a wall from where you can't see, and you kind of all freeze as the noise echoes out slightly across the marsh, and you can't really tell what it might be. And then a few moments later, it does the same again. It sounds like a horse whickering. Not unhappily, just, horse making horse noise.
Hello? Is there anyone in there?
No response. Nothing but kind of the patter of rain on stone and soil.
Can we kind of make a little bit of a beeline around the house to get a view on the cursed bog horse?
Sure. The cursed bog horse is there, standing just, it looks like outside the entrance to the stone building, or kind of what remains of it. The cursed bog horse looks remarkably like an uncursed non-bog horse, and is just kind of gnawing away at some plants at the root of a somewhat sickly-looking tree. It is saddled and has reins, and they're just kind of like dangling and draping in a mirish pool of water next to it.
I think I'll go and try and make friends with the horse.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, why don't you give me a willpower roll? See how well the horse likes you.
That's a success.
Yeah. You walk over kind of like cautiously. Has Doran dealt with horses before, or is this just lucky fresh horsemanship?
No. Horse butlering is definitely something in the advanced modules.
Of course, it is. That's the advanced career. So, you make your way over, making kind of soothing noises. Do you want to give an example of the soothing noise, Chris, that you make?
Boo. Boo.
Horses love that noise.
I'm soothed.
I just want everyone to know, for a start, Chris's camera's frozen on an amazing shot. And secondly, that is remarkably similar to the noise that Chris makes when he logs onto StreamYard. And at the beginning, when my mic is off, if I'm off doing something else, and I will just hear a noise like that coming from my speakers before I come back and change my settings. And now I know it's because Chris considers me to be a horse. So, that's good to know. Let's see if we can wait a moment for Chris to return. There he is. I take it when you vanish, Chris, you can still hear us, I think, can't you? Because you always respond. So
briefly, yes.
Briefly, okay. The horse, which is a large kind of like brown horse with maybe a bit of white patterning on its face, turns and kind of like fixes you with a fairly judgmental stare, then clearly decides you're absolutely fine, and just kind of takes a couple of paces towards you and affectionately headbutts you hard on one shoulder with its with its head. Seems perfectly fine.
Well, look, the horse clearly had an owner. I'll kind of call back.
Seems strange to leave a horse at an empty house.
I don't mechanically know how this works because I'm not quite sure what kind of arcanum it is.
Sure, yeah.
But I have the flesh tome of Babel, so I was
Nice.
thinking that I could speak in a strange sounding language, understandable to all living things nearby, and have a chat with the horse.
Yeah, absolutely. It does say all living things, not like all sentient things or something, right?
It says every living
all living
thing.
things is able to understand and reply in the same tongue if they wish. Absolutely. I will add, of course, the caveat that exactly how expressive they can be will largely depend on that creature's intelligence.
You've got to play the horse how you think the horse.
I will play the horse. I'll play the horse like you play the horse.
Shall I do a willpower roll for the horse? Well, for me
Yes, I
speaking
think so. Yeah,
That is-
you don't have to. I don't think you have to roll to activate the Arcana, but yeah,
Yeah.
to see if it wants to speak to you, right?
I rolled a 4, so that's actually a pass.
So actually a pass. Yeah, the horse kind of like looks over at you as well as you approach and seems to consider you just an inoffensive human in exactly the same way it considered Doran. What are you going to say to the horse?
Good morning.
That's wonderful. I would like you, Stephen, to do an impression of what you think the Babel language sounds like. Sounds good.
What brings you here?
Horse just kind of goes lost.
Do you have an owner? Are you did you come here with someone?
Lost. Back weight. Not here. Lost.
I will turn to the others and say, the horse is lost. Has lost its rider.
What exactly was that, Haroth? You were making some quite strange noises there.
No, you could understand exactly what Haroth said.
Right.
You are also a living.
Or everyone can understand it.
Haroth, why could I? What happened there? Why could I understand the horse?
Listen. Like, it's important to be able to communicate clearly in the line of trinket merchanting. So it's just a little skill I picked up along the way. So I'm not going to sell trinkets to this horse, but I thought it was, good to converse.
Very good idea.
So
can I make a slight suggestion for the use of the flesh tome?
Yeah.
I'm going to judge that you need to actually have it out and be talking from it like it's a a phrase book.
Like a phrase book. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is made from meat.
It's made from meat. It's a book.
Yeah, it's a flesh tome.
Made from meat.
Yeah.
Universal phrase book. Okay.
Yeah.
We should.
Chris was about to volunteer a suggestion there, and
it was.
Then
we may have to wait.
On this. Sorry, folks. I think Chris is on a satellite connection tonight. It's a bit wonky. In his absence, I imagine what he was going to suggest is to investigate the ruin building, but I could be entirely wrong.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask the horse if the horse wanted to come with us while we tried to find its back weight.
The horse says, "Food?
Maybe." I sort of pat my pockets looking for food, but I think I probably have none.
You get the sense that the horse seems perfectly fine coming with you.
Yeah. All right.
Should you want to take the horse through a wonky marsh?
Sure. Why not? I think we will try to have a look around the ruins first.
Sure. And there's not an awful lot to look around. There is kind of a big set of stone walls. You kind of take a look in it, and it's very obvious there's no kind of like, you're not about to head into a dungeon or anything. It's just a tumble down ruined stone building. It's mostly empty with mosses and grasses growing over everything and kind of piles of soil over what used to be a kind of flagstone floor. You do all find yourselves roughly at the same time in the only room that you can make head or tail of, which is a room sort of kind of set more deeply back into what was the building. A kind of large rectangular room that seems to have very old remnants of maybe destroyed, maybe just decayed lab equipment. You can see like fragments of kind of blown glass vessels and brass tubes and things like that. And scattered kind of like around it, you just find like little burnt scraps of paper and various things like that. But it all looks very old. Oh dear. Oh no, there he is. Is he?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh, he blinked. I don't know if you said something there, Chris, but it sounded to me just like you.
Blown to smithereens, perhaps.
Maybe.
Or just abandoned and old. Like I'll have a look around and see if there's any sort of like written material that's survived enough to be comprehensible.
Sort of like a deeper look around the rubble and wreckage of it.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. You don't find any written records of stuff, but by scraping some patches of soil and vegetation aside, you do find a few vials of what seems like intact material from the laboratory. There are, you know what? Give us a D6 roll.
D6. 3 again.
Okay. You find 3 intact vials. They're full of a kind of slightly glutinous looking brown liquid and printed in kind of an old-fashioned way, like a replicated woodcut on the side, kind of roughly pasted on with a bit of paper, is an image of a centipede.
If it looks like the others are desperate to share those out one each, I'll do so, but otherwise I will pocket them all.
I'll definitely take a look. As a butler, I'm used to things that are inside houses.
As a butler, I know a lot about centipedes.
You've worked with a lot of things in your time.
That are inside houses, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I will show you a vial. You can take it if you wish.
I will do, just in case it's handy.
Okay.
What are
Absolutely.
I don't know. They're intact vials of glutinous brown liquid with images of centipedes on the side. Would you like one?
I think no.
Excellent choice. I'll look after them. You never know.
Okay. There doesn't seem to be anything else around here.
Okay.
Well, I'd say a horse and 3 mystery vials is pretty good for a ruined house in the middle of a cursed swamp.
Yeah. It's shaping up to be a great day.
Another good omen.
Yeah. I guess on the way back out of the house, I have one more go at talking to the horse and say, you need the noises or just the book look up? Your back weight lost. Which direction?
Lost.
Understood.
That last one, that was the closest the
understandable.
horse came to kind of like lost.
Yeah.
Like
are you an idiot? So,
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I will gesture for the horse to follow us because
Sure. Yeah. The horse will happily kind of like clop after you, although it will stop after a while. Anytime it seems like a tasty-looking frond of something, it will munch on it. But it does have reins, so it can be led.
I'll take the ownership of the horse, seeing as I think I've made the best impression so far.
I had a chat with it, but sure.
But he's a butler. He knows horses.
Horses,
That's true.
occasionally stored inside houses.
Things inside
Butler.
houses, people, doors, horses. I get it.
Yeah.
I understand.
You wander presumably back over to Munford. He's kind of sat on a sort of solidified tuft of vegetation where he's sort of kind of like rubbing his eyes and mopping his brow and just going like kind of oh good lord, oh not again. He's kind of staring at the horse, kind of wide-eyed, and then he kind of like traces the reins down and sees that Doran is holding the reins and goes, "Oh, thank you. Oh, it's a real horse."
It is indeed a bog horse, I think.
Is that a recognized breed?
We found it.
Not in the circles I spin in, but I have heard of them. Come from the bogs, you see.
I think it may have been ridden in here and lost its rider.
Oh, do you think, Tareen? Do you think it's lost its rider?
I do, yes.
Very savvy. Well, what did you find other than this mystery horse?
We found some vials.
Vials?
Of brown liquid. With the centipede. I'll hand one over.
Sure.
Centipede juice.
He unscrews the top of the vial and kind of like... Poison, I suspect. You'll find. He hands it back to you.
Thank you, sir.
And there is an important lesson. Oliphant, Creed, Tareen. That is, people's finds are their own. Do not go stealing, pilfering, or otherwise acquiring another gentleman or lady's finds, Tareen.
I didn't.
Not today, perhaps. Oh, it's probably poison.
I'll shoot Helroth a kind of sympathetic glance.
Well, here we are with the next lesson. Our course lays us to the west, roughly southwest. Clearly, we cannot go over those craggy monstrosities there. From here, it seems we can strike out. Well, there's that horrible patch of bubbling water over there. We probably don't want to go near that. So, here are our options. We can lay straight to the south, which would seem to take us towards those outcroppings, really, but perhaps a southerly way can be found around. Perhaps there is more treasures. He kind of glances at the centipede vial you've still got in your hand to be found there. But if we want to lay a course more directly towards this iron coral, it looks like northwest or southwest is our way. And I am a generous tutor, unless I feel that we are entirely wasting our time. Why don't the three of you make a decision on where to go? Which is how I'm explaining that you're deciding where to go in the hex crawl. So you can go... he says that the path is roughly to the southwest, and you can go southwest or northwest or south. And more so, I will give you, because you can, since it's raining, you can see roughly what's going on in those directions. So I will tell you what there seems to be. To the northwest, there looks to be some kind of, maybe like a kind of, you can see something glittering slightly in the one sun from overhead. It looks like maybe some sort of metal dome of some kind. To the southwest, you can see again something reflective in the sun, but this looks like maybe a small pond or a very small lake of some kind. And then directly to the south, you can see even in the relatively low light from the sun overhead, you can see a somewhat pleasant looking meadow of golden flowers.
Well, I must say I am sick and tired of water, so I would avoid the lake by my preference.
The dome is not quite the direction we intended to go, but perhaps warrants investigation.
And may provide some shelter while we wait for this rain to pass.
We could try that, and then perhaps head southwest from there.
There could be more riches in the dome. Maybe more horses, more vials, anything.
The only limit is our imagination and the possibilities the universe can throw at us.
Seems exciting.
So we are heading to the northwest towards the metal dome. Then it seems. Well, you trudge through the marsh towards the northwest, and we had a roll from Stephen last time. So how about we move around clockwise? And Sam, why don't you give us a weather roll, please, as we move towards like the afternoon?
I rolled a 4.
Rolled a 4. In that case, mist and moisture sweep in. The rain comes to a halt, and a gentle fog starts rising from the ground. There's barely a wind to disturb it, and it actually becomes quite difficult to see this metal dome as you're making your way forward towards it. First, you pass kind of the usual marshy vegetation, and then a number of fallen trees around you, which seem to be burnt, kind of not chopped down, but almost like blasted or burnt down in an instant, and scattered on the ground around you. Also see you see the form of the metal dome ahead of you in the marsh. At its peak, it seems to be maybe about 10 foot high, so it is quite large. I would then like perhaps, and this is where like I would quite like some kind of observational stat, I think. But I think the game kind of intends almost dexterity to be it, maybe. So why don't we have a dexterity roll from everyone, please?
Okay.
You tell me if you pass. I know dexterity is the party's dump stat. Ooh, a 2 from Doran Creed.
I got a 4. Makes it just
16.
Okay. In that case, Helroth Terrene, you are the one who is alarmed to the point of kind of inaction when 7 individuals kind of appear out of the mist around the dome and stride forward confidently, all of them in kind of like rough leatherish armor, carrying clubs and shields. They look like a group of rather disreputable men and women. But as they come out of the mist, Doran and Tiva, you definitely have time to react in some way, whether it's like drawing a weapon or even drawing and firing it or shout, whatever you want to do. And shall we go with, who rolled the 2? That was Doran, right? Yeah. Doran, why don't you go first? What are you doing as they emerge from the mist?
I think... Oh, it's such a flip, because can we talk our way out of this?
The whole thing of Into the Odd is you can approach. You're meant to approach everything as you want to approach it. Don't feel even if it's a hostile thing that you necessarily have to fight.
I
Can if you want,
feel
but,
like
you know.
I
They're
feel
not running
like
at you
it's-
with their clubs raised or anything. They're not immediately about
Yeah.
to attack you, but they certainly don't look friendly.
I feel like it's a toss-up because on one hand, Doran is holding on to sanity with a very wide grin on his face. On the other hand, he has just had someone try and kill him. So I think I'm going to opt for being friendly and kind of giving them a greeting.
Okay. Why don't you give me a willpower roll for that? And Tiva, while Doran is doing that, what are you doing?
I am drawing my sword and dagger, and
Sure.
I'm gonna stand directly in between these people and Munford Dumbbell.
Okay. So you got a 3, so that's a good impression, I suppose. Tiva, you kind of stand there readying yourself. Doran, tell me how you greet these figures walking out from the mist.
Good morning, gentlemen. Pleasant now the rain has stopped.
They kind of come to a halt and kind of view Tiva with some kind of wariness. Munford is kind of stood just behind Tiva, kind of like glancing around, seemingly unconcerned, gazing off into the distance and burrowing into his snuff box again. Morning. Afternoon, really.
Is it? Oh, we lost a little bit of time in the marshes. We are passing through to the west.
Right. They're kind of eyeing Tiva with her sword and dagger out again. So are you... Is that your horse?
It's a bog horse. It's best not to interfere with it. It's probably cursed.
Right. Well, maybe he's kind of looking around for a bit of courage to his companions, and one of them kind of goes, yeah, maybe you could see your way clear to donating to some less than fortunate children of the marsh, cast out from Hope's End. We have families.
Question mark.
Um,
Well, he's not really ours to donate, but if you have something for trade, perhaps.
Trade. Yeah. I mean, we don't have much to give. Are any of the three of you going to kind of like change Doran's tack or anything like that? It's fine if you don't. But Tiva sounds like she just stood there ready just in case. Helroth, you have recovered from your surprise of seeing them loom out of the fog. So, is there any particular reaction from you?
I thought for a moment that I might ask the horse whether or not it wants to go and join these obvious bandits, but I kind of don't want to get the flesh tome of Babel out in front of them.
Seems like a wise idea.
I think I'm going to just stand there looking as jaunty as I can muster in the middle of a swamp.
Sure.
TV is just glaring.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm probably carrying my musket, but not
yeah.
pointing it or anything particularly.
Well, while this less than savvy looter is sort of engaged in a weird passive aggressive demand for payment with Doran Creed, you hear like a click near to your shoulder, Tiva, and Mumford, who is still not even looking at them, just kind of gazing off into the distant north, has like pulled out one of his brace of pistols and kind of I don't know if you refer to like old-fashioned pistols whether you prime them or whether cock is an accurate word, but either way it's the click of him kind of pulling back the lever, and he just goes, do fuck off. No need for that kind of. We'll be on our way. No donations today. That's fine. That's fine. Come on. Let's. Oh, did want to be here anyway. They back off into the mist as swiftly as they arrived, and just sort of melt away, as it were.
Ooh.
Wow. Very
Only
impressive,
language
Mr.
their
Dumbo.
sort understands.
Did they back away toward the dome? Have they left the dome unguarded?
They kind
Can
of
we steal its riches?
left off towards the north. Yeah, the dome is still there, and they're nowhere in sight anymore. They just kind of went off into the fog to the north. The dome can absolutely be investigated should you wish.
My apologies, sir. In my line of work, diplomacy is often the only option.
I appreciate that, Mr. Creed, but really, these lower classes, they're the only brute force and threat is the only language they understand. No offense, Tareen.
I was going to say, sir, that I admired the efficiency with which you dealt with that situation. 3 words.
What have I told you about kissing ass? Let's have a look at this dome.
Yes, let's. 2 words.
Anytime you kind of sass him back or kind of employ any wit or anything against him, he literally looks like he didn't hear it. He will completely blank it. The 10-foot metal dome ahead of you is kind of it's not rusted, but there is an odd kind of like slightly sort of mother of pearl patina on it in various places that does look like some kind of corrosion, but none that you're overly familiar with. There is it has no markings on the side, but there is what appears to be some kind of loose panel. After you've like gone around the entire thing on the far side of it, there is what seems like, as I say, to be maybe kind of loose type panel on the side of it that has an odd kind of translucent slime leaking from it. Again, Munford is perfectly happy to stand back and let you have a look at the thing.
Free slime.
Can I use my battering ram candelabra combination item to maybe convince this panel to give way and let us access to the inside?
Sure. You kind of batter away at the panel with your battering there. I don't think you even need to roll for strength for it. It's kind of like a thing where if you push, it kind of it clicks out open back at you, and with a clang, the sort of length of it, which is about maybe 2 foot by 3 foot, kind of like swings back down, and with a clang and a little spray of that translucent slime, which sort of gets all over your clothes, a bit on your face. It stinks a bit, but it doesn't seem to be like corroding you or anything. Opens up, and inside is a certain darkness is all you can really see from the outside. Also, actually, when you popped it open, a few kind of scraps of parchment and paper kind of blew out with the sudden rush of air and are kind of settling on the marshy soil around you.
I think I will poke my head in.
Sorry, let's have Sam first there. Sorry.
Just how big is the panel?
2 foot by 3, so you can definitely climb inside.
Okay.
I'd like to go and start picking up the scraps of paper.
Sure.
And I think Doran said he was sticking his head in, but now
I think so. But we'll deal with your scraps of paper first. They seem to be you kind of get a couple of them, and they don't seem to make sense. There's like little circles with lines between them, and you're a bit puzzled by it. And as you kind of like patch a few of them together, you see they are what appears to be constellations of some kind. You have not seen these constellations before.
Cool. I will take those. That is valuable treasure.
Sure. Doran Creed, I believe you've popped your head in there.
Yep.
Is that correct?
That is correct. I'll try and adjust for the night vision, day sight.
Sure. Once you're in there, I mean, the sun is out, the light is going somewhat in. You see that the interior is a mostly empty space. It's not kind of clearly the dome is actually like an orb that extends like down into the earth. There's no kind of soil or vegetation in there whatsoever. Everything seems to be coated with a layer of this horrible, vaguely unpleasant smelling translucent slime. There are a number of odd configurations of metal on the interior of the kind of wall inside what appear to be maybe kind of like little devices and buttons and levers of some kind. And at the center of it is a set of what look like 3 odd sort of leatherish chairs embedded into the center of the orb, on which there are 3 skeletons. Again, covered with a layer of that translucent slime, wearing odd, all-covering kind of whitish clothing that seems to be kind of all over them, and with their heads encased in odd kind of goldfish bowl glass helmets. This registers you as odd enough, but what's even odder is that the skulls of the skeletons inside these outlandish costumes are quite clearly not human.
Well, I appear to have made a discovery. I wish I had some more words for it.
Munford kind of makes a harumphing noise, walks forward and kind of peers in himself and says, "Oh, yes, more of these fuckers. You find them from time to time. Don't know what they were doing here, though, in this piece of shit." He kicks the kind of metal orb, and it kind of a resonating clang runs through it. Have a look inside if you want. Never anything but these weird buttons. Them and this slime.
I think I've done enough exploring. Herloff, do you want to get slimy for the cause?
I mean, I am wearing my best adventuring jacket.
I don't mind going in. Used to this kind of thing.
That's the spirit. The slimy, foul-smelling spirit.
Yes, good, bold. He glances sideways at Tareen, not squeamish. Tell us what you see, Miss Oliphant, but I can assure you it won't be terribly interesting. I take it you're kind of clambering inside.
Yeah, I'll just get inside as best I can. And
sure. Do you want to give us a dex roll to avoid kind of slipping on the slime inside this thing?
Okay. My dex is 8. I rolled a 2.
There you go. Yeah, you managed to clamber down inside. Everything in there is exactly as Munford described. There's the weird skeletons in their kind of all over suits and fishbowl helmets. There's this odd, like the inside is mostly smooth, but with weird like panels and levers and the like. But there's otherwise nothing in there but slime.
Okay. I'll pull a few levers for good measure, and then
a few of them make
out.
Odd clunking noises, and you swear at one point you saw a blinking light, but it was probably your imagination.
Must be. I'll crawl back out the little entranceway. Not much in there, just as you said, Mr. Dubbo. Just those skeletons and a bunch of levers. Nothing else.
Well, quite. Now, use some of these ferns to clear that horrible shit off you. And let's have enough of this frankly boring find. He kicks the intergalactic spacecraft again with his foot and says, and let's head off further towards the Iron Coral, shall we? Evening is drawing in. He starts striding off. And I think that is where we will leave our first session of Into the Odd with a particularly odd thing. So, Before we get into kind of flagging up comments and questions, and please do throw them into chat if you have any, let's get that annoying promo out of the way. So if you check down below, there are links to YouTube and Twitch. You're watching on one, please check out the other and follow and subscribe, blah, 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 blah. It all really helps us. There's links to our social media, our Discord, and our Patreon. Those all do the things you might expect those things to do. We, as of next week, we'll be running 3 series weekly. Monday nights is Warhammer, Wednesdays is this, Into the Odd, and Thursday nights will be the returning Cincinnati Chronicles, which is our World of Darkness anthology series. And next week, we'll be launching into the 4th arc of that, which is Wraith the Oblivion. All the other arcs of that and all of our other stuff is available over on our YouTube if you want to watch our historical content. We also run one-shots once a month, usually early in the month, but sometimes not. The most recent of which was Death in Space, which this guy here ran, and I was in that along with Alex and Steve. And yeah, you can go watch the start of that on YouTube now, or I think the whole VOD is definitely still up on Twitch as well. That was a lot of fun. Our next one shot will be probably partway through June, and that's going to be me running Mork Borg with an exciting Mork Borg based giveaway. So tell all your friends about that. All your friends love Mork Borg. Everyone does. Yeah. With that in mind, let's have a look at comments and questions that we've had through the evening, which Chris has very kindly highlighted for me. Steve, there's an interesting podcast that's worth bookmarking if you want to hear a conversation between Chris McDowell and Johan Noor about this design of this remastered version. Away the link. Yes, thank you, Steve. That's very good. It is an absolutely lovely book.
We
it's
shall
really,
post
really
that
nice.
In the Discord if anyone wants
Yes,
a hard copy of the link.
Please do. That would be lovely. What's up? What's up next, Chris? From John, I like the idea that everyone's too polite to question Doran's names because they're all too terrified they misheard him the first, second, or third time. What was our favourite one? I liked the one that mentioned a cummerbund.
Chadwick.
Chadwick Cummerbund.
Chadwick Cummerbund. That felt very into the odd. That was good.
That was a good one.
That was good.
I think Eugene Stairs was my favourite.
Eugene Stairs was also very good.
I don't know if that came from a roll table or if Chris just has roll tables in his mind.
I've got roll tables in my mind for random nonsense.
Absolutely. I do have a fondness for names that include just random objects in them, which is probably the boring old Monty Python fan in me. Lowen, good to see you. Mutiny expert. Best thing to mention to the guy who you're getting a job from. Yeah, but you know what? Already the interaction, already bullying Helroth Tareen is one of my favorite things to do in this story. So
that is the 20 that is just going to keep on giving, isn't it?
Absolutely. If it helps,
taking the hat off and everything, and
if it helps, I knew Munford would relentlessly bully one of the party. So it was just fortuitous that you rolled that. More from John. This is turning into a fantasy Blackadder setting, isn't it? I'm not sure it's turning into it. It's pretty it's intended to be quite a humorous setting already, I think. But there's definitely an element of Troika bleeding through into it, I think.
There certainly is, yeah.
Lowen, is the party called Mumford and Sons? Wash your mouth out. Yeah, when
made that same pun.
I did.
So pleased with yourself.
I didn't even think of it when I put the name because I'd never spoken it out loud. And then as soon as I kept saying Munford, I was like, "Oh God,
oh no,
no, oh no!"
I hear the distant wailing of banjos.
Yeah, and anti-vaxxers. Steve, you've got to play the horse you're dealt.
Very true.
It's true. Everyone I know says that.
Cursed bog
And
horse.
finally,
yes. Steve, getting your flesh tome out in front of a bunch of strangers is probably a bit rash. Where I come from, that's a prosecutable offence.
And yet no one raised an eyebrow, and the first thing that Chris did in the morning was polish his candelabra. I mean,
that's true. That's true. That's absolutely true. Well, there we go. That's the first session of Into the Odd, folks. We hope you enjoyed it. We certainly did. We will catch you next Wednesday for more. I don't know if Mike will be joining us for that session or a little later on. Either way, Into the Odd is super easy to introduce new characters into, and I think the setup I've got here kind of works for it as well. So yeah, join us for more delving into the weird places of the weird world, and we will see you then. Take care and stay safe. Goodbye, everyone. Oh, actually, sorry. Before I go, I almost forgot to thank our recent followers. Keep waving. I'll tell you when to stop. Thank you for follows to 400 goblins. I don't have the name of all 400 of you. Crawl Time, Ideological Sissy, amazing, and Sir Mork, Mork Mauk. Thank you, and goodbye.